look at me, not the camera.
Okay.
Can you tell me your name and spell it?
Pegi, P-E-G-I, Robinson, R-O-B-I-N-S-O-N.
Okay, so I guess start off, you were on the Dr. Oz show.
Yes.
Talk to me about why.
Okay, I was on the Dr. Oz show to talk about a tubal pregnancy that I had in 1986. I was 2 months pregnant for twins. I was 25 years old, and I died in the emergency department in a wheelchair on my way to go to an exam room. And this is before I ever heard of near-death experience, never knew such thing existed. I had felt sick, and I'd had some pain, but all that had went away. And then I felt like I was going to pass out, and then my head just dropped to my chest. And suddenly I am shot like a rocket up through space. I couldn't see me. I just, had this experience of being shot through space, like I was going higher and higher. And I felt so horrible because I knew I died, and I had 3 little boys at home. And I was abused growing up, so I worried who was going to protect them, who was going to be a mother to them. And I felt so much regret because I had had a tubal ligation, and then 5 years later I found out I could have a tubal reversal. And they told me that I would have a 5% extra chance to a pregnancy. And I knew that's what had happened, that I had got that 5%, that I died from this. So I'm going shot through space, and it's dim, and it's like a loud bumpy ride, a loud speed sound of wind, and then all of a sudden everything is perfectly still and quiet, and I look down, I don't see me, but I feel just like me. And I'm in a bright white light. If it was a room, it would be the floor, wall, ceiling, but also in the middle, white, like I was contained in this white light. And I thought, well, this must be heaven. What else would this be? But where is everybody? I thought, did I do something wrong that I'm not aware of? That I would be alone for eternity? And when I had that thought, I don't want to be alone, then I looked over to my right, to the side a little, and I saw a person. It was just a faint outline, like the arm, shoulder, up the head. And I thought, who is that? And then I noticed there was more of them standing shoulder to shoulder. There was just a faint outline in this bright white light. And then my eyes kept scanning, because you still feel like you have eyes. You don't have anything, but you still feel the same. And my eyes scanned, and I saw one sitting up front and center, still just a faint outline. But I could tell it was sitting front and center, and I thought, well, that has to be God. So I thought I had a complaint department, because I'm 25, I have 3 little boys at home, and I got to be down there and raise them. I can't just be up here and do this. And I was very rude and disrespectful. I threw a fit, and a vision opened up, like this scene, this colorful scene on my left, this little scenario, this boy throwing a fit in the store, demanding what he wanted, and he wanted it right now. And I believe that was God's way of showing me, this is how you're acting. You're acting like a spoiled child. Because I heard God say to me telepathically, in a male, firm, but loving voice, no. The answer was no, that I couldn't go back. This was my time. This was it. And so I thought, well, I'll have to try something else. I was manipulative, because I just wanted back raising my kids. And so I said, well, I learned from church that you're omniscient, so you can see in the future. If you can look in the future and see my boys will be better off without me for whatever reason, I agree to stay. But if not, I beg to return. And then I seen across from me a physical me screaming out all my reasons why, all the abuse I went through as a child. And it was like somebody took a radio and just turned it up full blast, and it was like done over, everything I had to say. And I feel that vision was God's way of showing me, I already know. You don't have to keep going on. I understand. And then I saw the future, because I had asked, if you see in the future my kids be better off, I'd like to know. And I saw a vision of, I believe it was Jesus. I see a man from behind, and I see a physical me from behind. And all this while, I still have this invisible point of reference in this white light. And I see him from behind, and they go down to earth, and they're over top. We lived in a trailer at the time, and they're over top our trailer at night, and I see my 3 little boys there. And it couldn't have been that far in the future, because they look the same age. And they're crying the fact that Mom has died. And my middle son, Jeremy, said to his older brother, I don't care that you say that mom is dead. I want her back, and I want her back right now. And I felt his pain so much that I retracted. And now I'm back as a full me in heaven, like in physical body, not just this point of reference here, because now I believe that Jesus is sitting beside God. And, the panel of people still behind, and God's still up front and center. This was a knowing more than a visual seeing. And that I was sobbing at Jesus' feet. I kind of saw Jesus' feet, but I can't say I did. It was a feeling, that's where I was, that I was on the floor of heaven in front of God and Jesus, just sobbing, realizing this is my fault. It's not God's fault. Because I had my tubes tied, and then I had them reversed. And I knew there was a chance of tubal pregnancy. And it's my fault my twins died because of this. It's my fault I died. It's my fault my kids are motherless. And it's not God judging me, it's me judging me. And I'm sobbing at Jesus' feet. And then I see my hands, physical hands, come up in front of my face. And I try to say to Jesus, who else will teach them about you? And then I'm back in that wheelchair in the emergency room. And I'm thinking, what the heck happened? I was just in heaven accepting it. And now I'm back. And I knew I couldn't tell my doctor. This was 1986. I'd never heard near-death experience, anything like that. I thought this never happened in the history of the world. And I felt like if I told my doctor, hey, I'm going to die because I was just in heaven, that he would put me in a psych ward. And he wouldn't take me seriously. I had called him all week, every other day, saying, there's something wrong, I'm having pain, it's getting worse and worse. And that night, bleeding had started, and the pain got worse, which led me to come into the ER. And so I realized the nurse doesn't know that I had just died. I mean, not that much time could have passed, because beginning of the hall to the end of the hall, as she's looking for a room for me, as she's pushed me in a wheelchair. But if I would to say our time, how long was in heaven, I would say 20, 30 minutes. So it made no sense to me how that could be. All this happened, and, it could have been just a few blinks of an eye. And so I didn't understand at all how this could happen, but I knew it did. And I knew that I had a short time to get my doctor to take me seriously, that something is definitely wrong, because I just died. And so he examined me, and he said, Peggy, why do you keep saying it's a tubal pregnancy? He said, I did an ultrasound before. Both babies are in the uterus. I couldn't tell him. I just refused to go home. He says, well, if it make you feel better, since you live an hour away from the hospital, I can put you in a room tonight. I was like, okay, because I was afraid if I went home, my husband would go to work in the morning and my sons would find me dead. And I thought, if I'm going to die, I'm going to do it here. I'm not going to do that to them. So they put me in a private room, and all night I kept waking up with a pain in my right hip, and I'd get my bowl, and I would wake up, covered, vomit everywhere, but I'd hold my bowl. I was realizing I was passing out. And that's what was happening. So I kept telling the nurse, and she said, use your bowl. I said, I'm passing out. I can't. And so the next morning, they realized every time I sat up, I was passing out. So they took me down to ultrasound. And the nurse was doing the ultrasound. All of a sudden, her eyes got real big. And she jumped up and yelled, Dr. White's that. And she ran out of the room. And Dr. White come in, and he did the ultrasound. And he said, Peggy, it's the worst thing imaginable. He said, you have your entire abdominal cavity is full of internal bleeding, clear up to your chest. So we've got to get you into surgery now. And they called my whole family in. I found out later and said, she's not going to make it. And after the surgery, my doctor told me that it's the biggest tubal pregnancy the hospital ever saw. One baby was in the uterus, and the other was stuck in the tube, half in the tube and half in the uterus. And so, of course, they had to remove the babies at that point, so they died at the point of the surgery. So I didn't know what to make of this. I just started the postpartum depression. I've lost twins and I almost died, and I couldn't talk to anybody about what happened. And strange things started happening to me after that. And then, all of a sudden, one night, just a few months later, I remembered that I had drowned when I was 5 years old. And I started remembered strange things that happened after the drowning. And so I went to my mom and I said, did I drown when I was little? And she said, yeah, you did. And she hadn't told anybody because she didn't want my dad to find out. Their first child had died. I was their sixth. And the family blamed her. And she was afraid that she would get blamed, so she didn't, it was never discussed. So the strange things that happen after NDE is so confusing, sometimes more confusing than the NDE, because I started saving lives. It was like a sixth sense. I could be sitting somewhere and hear something that nobody else heard, and I would be led, and saved a child from drowning. I saved a child from choking. I saved 4 guys that was in a car wreck that was up our hill. There's no way I could have heard it. Just things that, I thought I've changed and I don't understand why. And not until I got older and I started learning about near-death experience, oh, that's what it was called. And after effect, oh, that's what those strange things that happened afterwards are called. And so my kids were raised, we had 60 therapeutic foster children in and out in 16 years. We adopted 10 of those. And so I finally had my empty nest, and I started traveling with my husband for his work. He's a welder and pipe fitter. And I spent all the time in the camper alone. And one day I had a vision open up. And as soon as that happened, it's just like I understood everything. Everything come together. And I started typing. And I sat in that camper all day, every day. And for 3 months I wrote. And I ended up writing my book. And when I was done, how did I do this? I felt like I had help, like divine intervention, to be able to process this and put it all in there. And so once that was published, I just started going around talking, and people was doing YouTubes. And I didn't understand what my NDE personally meant to the researchers. They look for certain things in NDEs, and I didn't understand that my experiences were confirming a lot of things that scientists have been discovering lately.
Interesting. Wow. Well, first off, your story's remarkable. What's your book called?
Here, The Wheel of a Wildflower.
Okay. I'll get shots of those too, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Where are you from?
Long Bottom, Ohio.
Where did this experience happen? What hospital?
Marietta Memorial.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
1986, when it was the old edition.
Okay. Okay, that was just some of the stuff that as you were going, I was like, I need to ask her that. Now that you've had that, now that you've sort of shaped some of the most powerful things in your life around it and reaching out to helping others, what do you make of it all? I guess, like, what do you think that this was supposed to happen in this way?
It feels that way. It feels like like there was a puzzle, like broken apart, and my life has gone along and picking up pieces, and now it's not fully complete yet, but I can see the whole picture a lot better. I know there's more to come. I'm learning to listen to the little visions I see, because I believe that in the drowning and in the near-death experience, when I saw visions opened up that taught me something, the child in the store, and me in front of me blurting out all this abuse, and that was God's way to show me this and that. I'm understanding that all that's come back with me. I still get visions that explain a concept to me that's hard for me to understand. And maybe we all do, but we just don't really pay attention. And also, when I got telepathic communication, when I had died those 2 times at 5 and at 25, 5 from the drowning, I also get telepathic communication still, and maybe we all do. But I'm learning to recognize it now. What is imagination? What is just me thinking? And what is, whoa, that just come in, and I need to go to that house and see if somebody's okay. That kind of thing.
Yeah. So your story is very compelling, but there's always going to be people who don't believe you.
That's okay.
What do you say to them?
That's okay. That's okay. I mean, I understand, because after my tubal pregnancy, I pushed the fact that I had died out of my mind. I was 25. I couldn't deal with any of this. I didn't understand it. I didn't think I said it like it happened to anyone. And I was walking through. We had built a basement, and we had moved in it. And I was walking through the living room to go in the kitchen to start dinner, and Oprah Winfrey was on, and she was new at the time, and she had people on there saying they died and come back, and I stood there and scoffed. I was like, oh my God, how stupid do they think we are? A bunch of weirdos. And I started to walk to the kitchen, and I stopped in my tracks, and I thought, wait a minute, why does that sound familiar? oh my God, it happened to me, and I remembered it all. Now, people are going to hear me say that and think, oh, she just heard of Oprah Winfrey, and so now she had one. No, this was 1986. I did not want to look or sound like one of those weirdos on TV, and nor was there anywhere for me to go talk about it. I just told my husband, I told my sister, and I told a friend, and that was it. And years went by, and even when I started hearing about near-death experiences, probably in the 90s, I didn't put together that's what mine was. I wasn't putting, oh, that's